he's a weekend starter or the starting catcher or whatever the position is. If you're playing at the University of South Carolina, everybody in the state of South Carolina knows who you are because everybody follows Gamecock baseball. It is a big deal, and there's tremendous tradition here and a lot of success in this program. I think that's one of the biggest selling points is being able to step in and compete immediately to get this program going on the right track again, but also you get a chance to play in a tremendous college baseball state like South Carolina in a program that has had a lot of success. And I did. I was blessed to be able to work for Coach Tanner for 6 years. I've worked for Mark Kingston, and now I've worked for Paul Maneri.
Yeah, and working for those three guys in the recruiting aspect that Monte Lee has, he knows what's up, especially recruiting for Gamecock baseball. Look, and all that makes sense. I mean, you're throwing the recruiting pitch out. Look, we struggled this year. There's a lot of opportunity here for you to come in and play right away, whether you're a freshman, JUCO kid, transfer portal, whatever the case. You can get on the field here. That's a good recruiting pitch. The fact is, because there's no pro sports, and really the two big brands in the state are South Carolina and Clemson, you have an opportunity to really build your brand. And plus, in the NIL space, you can do some damage because there's no pro sports here. All those things make sense. Absolutely, they do. And Jay and I were yipping about this yesterday, is, the legacy piece, there's just no... These kids, unless they grew up in South Carolina and know about how really good Gamecock baseball was for a long time, your tradition and legacy and all that other stuff that has gone on in the past, it doesn't matter to these kids. And it's okay. It's not a criticism. It's just the way it is. They don't care about, even going back to when South Carolina played for the championship 3 straight years, won back-to-back national championships in Omaha. I mean, those kids were, 5? Something like that? 5, 6, 4? They don't remember, and they don't care. It's about now. It's about what can you do for them? Can they play for your program, win games on the field, play for championships, or be in contention to play for championships, and can you also prepare them to go be a pro? That's what they care about in football, basketball, baseball. That's what they care about. Can you, A, make my experience while I play for you really good? And B, can you get me ready to go be a pro and make a ton of coin? And the third thing, obviously, we throw in now is what kind of bag are you going to get me? How much you paying me? So those are things really that matter now. And your tradition in the past and your legacies and all those things, they don't matter as much. They matter to you as a fan because you lived it, you experienced it, or you were told about it, and you've seen highlights and all these other things. But at the end of the day, the player is looking at the 3 things we just brought up. All right, recruiting-wise, I'm looking at Perfect Game. Recruiting rankings, 2026. By the way, just if you want to know out of curiosity, Perfect Game's recruiting rankings for 2025, South Carolina was 99th in 2025. Now, going to 2026 recruiting rankings, it gets a lot better, to be fair. 2026 recruiting rankings, again, Perfect Game, 2026 says South Carolina 25th. And you're going, okay, that's much better, Tara. Yes, it is. It absolutely is better. But the caveat of that is it puts you about 14th in the SEC. Just like football. Just like football. You're like, wow. If you look at it, number 1 is Texas, number 2 is Tennessee, number 3 is LSU, 3 SEC teams right off the bat. Boom. Number 4 is Vanderbilt. Number 5 is Florida. Top 5 teams, 2026 recruiting classes, according to Perfect Game, all SEC schools. Texas, Tennessee, LSU, Vandy, Florida. A&M is 9th, Auburn is 10th. 7 of the top 10 schools in recruiting rankings, according to Perfect Game, SEC schools. 11 is Ole Miss. 15 is Bama. 19 is Georgia. 20 is Arkansas. 22 Mississippi State. 23 Oklahoma. Then South Carolina 25. SEC schools behind South Carolina. Missouri's 26th. Kentucky is 36th. It takes a bit to scroll down to find them. Just being real. I think there's a couple more. I think no, that's it because South Carolina's 14th. So then the only two schools behind South Carolina right now in recruiting rankings for 2026, according to Perfect Score, Missouri and Kentucky. But South Carolina's 25th in the country. Think about that. That's what you're dealing with. That's reality. Again, just like football. You have a top 20 recruiting class, you go, yeah. Then you find out you're 10th or 12th in the SEC, and you're like, whew. But that's the reality of where you're at. But this recruiting class, so far, is solid. You're 25th in the country. But yeah, if the recruiting pitch, I totally get it from Monte. You got push all those positives. You're going to deal with negative recruiting about Coach Maneri, his age, his future, all these other things. The season this team just had, that's where you're going to get negative recruited on those things. But, you counter with the stuff Monte threw out. And so far, sitting at 25, especially when you were 99 this past year, that is a heck of an improvement. But then when you're 99th, really, to be honest, there's nowhere to go but up. Baseball in the game tonight. Winthrop showing up at Founders, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch with Derek and Stewart in here in Columbia, 107.5 the game, and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach, 100.3 the game. Just in case you just woke up and you missed it, very interesting goings on, not just in the NBA playoffs last night, but the NBA draft lottery. We have that coming up next on the halftime show. David Ayer steering the ship, Terry Ford hanging out with you till 3 on the game. Just in case you just woke up here on the halftime show, NBA playoffs last night. I give the Knicks a ton of credit. I do. In this series with the Celtics, New York has taken over the fourth quarter of games. They just have. I mean, again, last night, Celtics couldn't miss in the first half last night. Knicks came out in the second half, totally flipped the script. Jalen Brunson was insane, far and away his most efficient game of the series. Brunson has had trouble dealing. Boston's got really good perimeter defenders, whether it's Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown. Boston's got length and athleticism on the perimeter, and it's really bothered Jalen Brunson. But Brunson was insane last night, especially in the third quarter. Brunson went nuts, scored 39. Again, very efficient shooting the rock, had 12 assists, also pulled down 5 rebounds. I mean, it was something. Mikal Bridges was big in the second half also for the Knicks. And the Knicks, I mean, again, they made the plays down the stretch in the second half and the fourth quarter, and the Celtics, frankly, didn't. And, the Celtics, look, I get it. I understand the whole mindset of this is what we do. We chuck a ton of threes. And last night, again, Celtics took 79 shots, 48 of them were threes. Over half. Over half of their shots, threes. And to be fair, though, if you look at their season, the Boston Celtics took roughly 80, almost 83 shots. And 38 of them, so a little bit under half. They've been going overboard in the playoffs. They really have been. And part of it is what the Knicks are doing on defense. But the other part, to be fair, is just the Celtics. They take over. No, I just looked. They did take over half of their shots were from three in the regular season. That's what they do. Last year, the Celtics won the NBA championship. And again, you look at shot numbers, they took about 42.5 threes a game with 90 overall shots a game, so a little bit under 50%. This year, they've shot more threes. And look, the Celtics, massively talented, playmaking guys with Tatum and Brown. I think Boston, in this series especially, has just settled and chucked way too many threes. They just have. And again, once you get a double-digit lead and you're coming down and you're taking threes early in the shot clock and you're just settling for threes instead of attacking the defense and getting your threes in the natural flow of the offense, I just think you're clunking up your offense and you're giving the other team, the Knicks, extra possessions to come back in the game. No one's saying freeze the ball and hold the rock till there's 20 seconds left in the shot clock. No. Run your offense, but run it inside out. Look to attack. Look for easier hoops and easier baskets. And then once the defense is collapsing and you got the defense out of position with rotations, then you kick to a dude on the three-point line who can step into one in rhythm. Call me crazy. I think the Celtics, and look, Joe Mazzulla, look, that dude's got a ring. He is the head coach of the NBA champion Boston Celtics. And the Celtics, they run really good offense. They run really good defense. They're an excellent team. I don't think old Mr. Mazzulla is a great in-game adjuster. I think he's like, here's how we play on both ends of the court. Here's how we're going to play. They don't do a ton of adjusting. A little bit, like they did some last night where they were forcing Karl Anthony Towns into some bad decisions defensively. But for the most part, the Celtics are who they are. And in a lot of ways, I think they've shot themselves out of this series. Combined with what the Knicks have been, look, this is taking nothing away from the Knicks. Because they've been really good. And unless they totally screw the pooch, they're going to win this series. They're up 3-1. Jason Tatum last night, in case you missed it, Jason Tatum was shifting his weight, going to make a play on a steal, and you crumble to the ground. And when you watch the replay, it doesn't take a genius to go, that looks like an Achilles. Could be wrong again, but, I did, Dave, to be honest with you. I watched a ton of VR when I was young. I mean, I really could be a doctor after watching so many years of VR. But it looked like the type of action that happens when someone blows their Achilles. Hope I'm wrong. Hope it's something that, Tatum's going to be much better today than it was last night. It looked bad. Here's Joe Mazzulla, Celtics head coach, after the game. Hit it, Dave. We'll do it again. Hit it, Dave. It worked.
I didn't ask him. I just got the update from him. I just asked him how he was doing. So I'll get the MRI tomorrow, and we'll see what it is.
How concerned is that for you guys right now?
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously always concerned about someone's health. So it's twofold. We're concerned about his health, where he's at, and then we're concerned about what we have to do better for Game 5 when we get back to Boston.
All right, dump it, Dave. You're good. You can dump it. It's a lower body injury. It doesn't look good. And the way where Tatum grabbed the back of his leg in that area, that's the Achilles area. Again, I hope we're wrong, but it didn't look good. The MRI was today. Still no word. I just looked at the headlines in the world of sports. Nothing yet. And Tatum was killing it last night. Had 42 points. Was really good from 2, really good from 3. He was basically keeping the Celtics in the game in the fourth quarter when he got hurt. But the Knicks on the cusp of winning this series and moving on to the Eastern Conference Final, where it looks like they'll play Indiana. So the Knicks have a real road to go play for the NBA championship. And look, I like a lot of the players on this Knicks team. New York Knicks fans, though, oh, God. Again, the bandwagon jumping celebrities were there last night. The bandwagon jumping ex-Knicks were there last night. It was a thing at Madison Square Garden. Look, is Madison Square Garden a historic building? Sure. Are the Knicks a historic franchise? No. The people that say this to me, well, the NBA is better when the Knicks are good. Okay, give me the proof. The Knicks haven't been consistently good since the 70s. NBA's been just fine. Some of the most historic ratings and attendance and interest on the NBA, the Knicks weren't even thought about. That's that New York sports fan mentality, or that New York City mentality that everybody outside of New York gives a crap about everything in New York, which we don't. But yeah, I heard it again last night. NBA is just better when the Knicks are good. No, not really. Not really. But people say that now because they've heard it so much from the New York media and the national media that's based where? Oh, New York. But the Knicks will have their shot to get to the finals because if they do beat Boston, and look, Indiana's playing really well. And they've been playing really well for a few months now. So that won't be easy, but the Knicks, they have a path to get to the NBA finals. And Jalen Brunson's been phenomenal in clutch time for the Knicks. Also last night, look, this series is not a series because Steph Curry, the minute Steph Curry got hurt, to me, this series was over. There's no way the Timberwolves were going to lose. And yes, Minnesota's reeled off 3 straight wins without Curry on the court for Golden State. Happened again last night. Anthony Edwards was filthy. Such a good young player. And Edwards has had his moments of clunkiness in the postseason, but last night Edwards was on it. 30 points, really good shooting the ball from 2, from 3. And Minnesota on the cusp of knocking out Golden State and going on to the conference finals, whether they play Oklahoma City or Denver. I think Oklahoma City will win, but I'm going to tell you now, Minnesota's not going to be an easy out at all for either Oklahoma City or Denver. Minnesota guards you. They've got offensive talent. They got a high-level bucket getter in Anthony Edwards. They got a guy playing Robin right now to Edwards' Batman, Julius Randle, who's got it going. So Minnesota's not going to be easy to beat. So we'll see what happens. Minnesota now up 3-1, looking to close out Golden State. Last night, the NBA draft lottery. And a rare thing happened last night. Here's the call of the draft lottery. It came down to Dallas, Utah, and San Antonio. And here, if you haven't heard it yet, this was the result.
The second pick will be made by the San Antonio Spurs, and that means that the number 1 pick in the 2025 NBA Draft goes to the Dallas Mavericks.
Woo! Now, what was interesting to me, if San Antonio would have got the first pick overall, think about this. They would then have Victor Wembanyama and Cooper Flagg. That would have been fun. But Dallas gets the first pick. Couple things real quick. I heard, wow, this thing was fixed. The NBA wants to help Dallas because of that terrible Luka trade. Here's my question. Why? Why the hell would the NBA want to help Dallas? They're not a marquee franchise. Yeah, Dallas is a big city, but it's not like a marquee franchise. It's not like, got to prop up the Mavs. No, not really at all. We want to make good on the awful PR and how mad the fans are at the Mavs. Why? There's a lot of smoke that the family that bought the Mavs from Cuban, I mean, they're Vegas people. They're casino people. There's been talk they might want to weasel the Mavericks to Vegas. So, again, why would the NBA want to rig a draft lottery to help Dallas? Also, very interesting conversation is, could Dallas trade that pick to get Giannis Antetokounmpo? We will talk about that at some point here on the show. Very interesting trade rumors are flying about that number 1 pick because Cooper Flagg looks like and feels like a generational talent. That's what's trending. Not trending. We do that later. Tell you what, Dave, I can't do these shows sober. I get everything mixed up. That is it just in case you missed it here on The Game. We'll come back. Firehouse subtext the hour 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. David Ayer, Terry Ford till 3 on The Game. Firehouse subtext of the hour at 803-404-6100. An anonymous texter, we were talking about the kicking situation in the first riff of the show, hearing Shane talk at the Welcome Home in Rock Hill last night. Texter says, I'm really nervous about the kicking. We saw last year when Huntley missed a couple of big kicks. We need a kicker we can depend on. Very nervous again about the inexperience. Yeah, I mean, like we said, you got to have a guy who trots on the field, 37-yard field goal, wind swirling, might be some rain, you're on the road, 100,000 people screaming and yelling, cussing, throwing things, and your kicker's got to go out there, take a breath, take a few steps, and bang the kick through. That's just what you have to have. And if it's Mason Love and he's going to do the punting and the kicking both, fine. Is it a freshman like Max Kelly who's just going to place kick? Fine. Whatever. Whoever and whatever, you just have to, when that kicker runs on the field, you've got to be like, we got this. I'm going to go snag a beer. That's really what you're looking for. But, yeah, it's a thing. Just like it's a thing, you're going to have a new snapper, a new holder, a new place kicker, a new punter, new return people, new gunners on special teams, new everything. So it's all a thing. But, yes, the place kicking is going to be important. Yeah, Alex Herrera last year hit that big field goal against Clemson, in the win in the upstate. But Herrera also, he missed a kick against Bama that was big, a kick against LSU that was big. Yeah. So his was kind of a mixed bag. You want a guy you can depend on. And it would be great if it's one of these young kickers who can stay with the program and kick for multiple years. And, once this year gets going, you're feeling really good about who they are and what you got. And you don't have to worry about the kicker for a couple of years. I appreciate the text. We do here at 803-404-6100. I want to go back to this point, since we have a minute, about the possible trading of the first pick overall by the Dallas Mavericks to, let's say, Milwaukee for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis is still at his prime. A phenomenal player. No, Giannis can't shoot threes to save his life. He's below average. He'll make one every now and then. But Giannis is an unstoppable physical force on both ends of the court. He might not be as good a defender as he used to be, but he's still a high-level defensive player, and offensively, you can't really stop him. So, yes, if you said to me, if Milwaukee came to me and said, we're going to trade you the first pick, we're going to trade you Giannis Antetokounmpo for the first pick overall, and like one of the two bigs you have, Lively or Gaffney, I'm making that trade. I know what I got with Giannis. I know what I'm getting with Giannis. And I think Giannis is going to be Giannis for another, roughly 3-4 years. I don't know. I think Cooper Flagg's going to be really good on both ends of the court and has the ability to possibly be an all-NBA type performer for years to come. I think that's what Cooper Flagg will be. I don't know for sure. I don't know. He could be even better than that. Or he could be just good or okay. Or a bust for who knows what. I don't know what Cooper Flagg is. I think I know because I've watched him play. And by the way, he should be in high school. What he did at Duke last year, he should have been in high school. That's how good Cooper Flagg is. But if I can get a known commodity, an all-NBA player in Giannis, I'm taking Giannis. If I'm the Dallas Mavericks in the position they're in as a franchise. Remember, they made the trade for Anthony Davis to win now. But if you get Giannis, or if you're, and here, let me put a little caveat on it. How does Giannis fit? Because then you'd have Giannis and Anthony Davis kind of playing the same areas of the court to go with Kyrie Irving. How would you make that fit? That's something you got to think about before you make the trade, just off the top of my head as I'm running through this thing. But one other point about I heard this last night about the lottery too. See, since the NBA tweaked this thing, you just can't tank for the first pick anymore. Look, I get there were teams tanking for Cooper Flagg. I understand it. But really, what the goal of what you should be doing is, do you want the first pick? Sure, but you want lottery picks. You want as many lottery picks as humanly possible. Elijah and I went through this today up in the office. Since 2017, if you look at first team All NBA, only one guy who has made first team All NBA since 2017 was not a lottery pick. Nikola Jokic. He was a second round pick and he fell in the second round. Foreign player who was, to be, lack of a better term, a tubby dude. But Nikola Jokic is the only first team All NBA guy who was not a lottery pick. The lottery picks, that's where it's at. Look, the Philadelphia 76ers had it right. The process was correct. They just did a crappy job picking players. But they had the assets. They could have had Giannis. They could have had Jason Tatum, and they screwed it up. Could have had Giannis twice. So anyway, appreciate the text like always, 803-404-6100. Nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll start off hearing from Shane. Welcome home in Rock Hill last night. Shane talking about a freshman who could get a lot of playing time possibly this year. We'll have that next here on the halftime show. David Ayer, Terry Ford, till 3 on the game. Shane Beamer, welcome home in Rock Hill last night. As we talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Shane, looking at, he was asked about freshmen who could play right away. And everybody, for your first thoughts is the wide receivers, right? You got a ton of freshman wide receivers. In the spring game, they all showed some ability to where you're like, those guys could be helpful, maybe, hopefully. Well, here's Shane. This answer might surprise you. Shane was asked a freshman who could see playing time in 2025, and here's what he said. Cut 3, Dave.
I think you look at the wide receiver position, and naturally, just because of the depth that you want to have at that position, we don't want to go into a game and just play these 3 receivers every snap. I mean, we want to be able to rotate guys and be 6 deep, if you will, where you're playing at least 2 guys on the out, or 2 guys X, Z, F, if you think of it that way, in the slot on the outside. Being able to have 2 guys at each position, so we'd like to have a depth of about 6 guys at least that we rotate in there. If we have more, that's even better. So if you say, okay, you're going to try and play 6 receivers, naturally you look at those freshman receivers. There's going to be a handful of them, if not all of them, that are going to play a lot. I feel confident saying right now that Shed Surratt, the freshman offensive lineman, put himself in position coming out of spring to play a lot. And then, beyond that, it really just kind of depends. But we're trying to get them all ready to play. There's no question about it. And how quickly they can show that we can get them out there, we want to get them out there as quick as possible.
So there you go. Shed Surratt, the freshman offensive lineman. Old Shed's name came up. And I don't think many folks saw that coming. Now, again, we were talking about this with Chris Clark earlier this morning on the Gamecock Club Hour, and it was like, Shed had a good spring, a solid spring, and Shed's a guard, and there's a crazy battle for the 2 starting guard spots. But we weren't really putting Surratt on the list of dudes we were confident that will be lining up for meaningful snaps in 2025. Freshmen. So if you look at the guard situation, you've got, you got Nick Sharp, Rodney Newsom, both transfer portal guys from Wake Forest and Western Kentucky. You got the kid Hay, who's coming in, also the latest transfer portal offensive lineman. That's 3. You also have Tree Babalati. You have Trevon Baugh. There's 5. You throw in Marquis Anderson, 6. That's quite crowded crew. Then you throw in Surratt, that's 7. You need 2 starters out of those 7. Now, the feeling is, could Tree Babalati, and Chris Clark brought up an interesting point about Tree, could Tree be a guy who is going to be your number 6 offensive lineman, like your utility guy? Like, you played him at guard in the spring for a purpose of getting him reps at guard. He's obviously a tackle who can play left and right tackle. Could he be your 6th man off the bench, so to speak? A guy that could fill in 4 roles on the offensive line? Possibly. Now, out of the guys at guard, you've got Baugh, who's going into year 3. You feel like year 3 in the program, this should be your time. So if you're Baugh, it feels like, okay, you played as a freshman when you most likely shouldn't have. Last year you were behind a bunch of vets, or a couple of vets in Ball and Simpkins. Well, now they're gone, and this is year 3 for you. This should be the time the Baugh steps in and takes the guard spot as a starter. There's no guarantee. Or, hey, let's be real. Sharp and Newsom might just be better than Baugh at this point. Then they'll play. Marquis Anderson, former 4-star, a lot of a potential, a lot of ability. Dude has problems staying healthy. So we'll see where it goes. And could Surratt sneak in past all of them and take a starting job? I don't know. But, when Shane brought up Surratt's name, very interesting. We'll see how it plays out. All right. Also, this Rasul Faison thing is just ridiculous. The NCAA still hasn't made a ruling. This has been dragging on and on and on. It's the NCAA. My guess is right now, the NCAA has a committee whose job is to form a committee to speak of Faison's situation. And once they form that committee will make a committee to look into Faison's JUCO years. And then that committee will form a committee to look at what Faison did when he was in elementary school and nursery school. This thing is insane. Faison has gotten an attorney, the same guy that represented Miles Studi, who did get another year. I think Faison, before it's all said and done, will get another year. He should. If you look at this thing, there's no reason why Faison shouldn't. If Diego Pavia, the quarterback at Vanderbilt, got another year, to me, it's simple that Faison should get another year. But, of course, since the NCAA is filled with bureaucracy and red tape, this is taking a lot longer than it should. Here's Shane. What was that? 1, 2, 3. Cut 4, Dave. Talking about Rasul Faison, if he has an update.
No, nothing. Saw him in the weight room today. He was in there working hard. And again, hopefully we'll have some closure on that at some point soon.
Yeah, just nothing. Which is silly and stupid. But really, at this point, nothing. And if Faison does become eligible, and I think he will, he's got every opportunity to be the starter. Oscar Attaway will be in the mix. So will Matthew Fuller, Juwan Howell. I like the potential in the running back room. Do you have a Rocket Sanders right now? No. Did Faison have a heck of a year at Utah State last year? Yeah. But Utah State, and Dave, you can double check it, they're not in the SEC. So how do you translate your game to the SEC? I mean, a bunch of guys have done it. Juice Wells came from James Madison, had a big year. So it's not like just because you're coming from Utah State that you can't translate your game to the SEC. But right now you don't have a guy who's a proven number one in the Southeastern Conference, a running back. Now, I think you have some talent in that room, though. And Faison, once he becomes eligible, because again, I think he will and he should, adds a little something that hopefully could end up being the starter at running back. The last one here, Dave, we'll get this one in from Shane. You're in May, June's coming, July. Isn't that when we do Birdies with Beamer? July. It comes after SEC Media Days, right? So Shane will be at SEC Media Days. And by the way, he speaks the first day of SEC Media Days. He's the first speaker after lunch in the afternoon. So Shane will be at SEC Media Days. Shane will be at the Birdies with Beamer. Shane's obviously out recruiting. But the question was asked to him about June. What kind of downtime do you have in the month of June?
So spent the last few days working on practice schedules for August, throughout the month of August, got those done. The calendar for August, just a daily schedule, things we want to tweak from last year, continue to do. So it allows me to plan. And then, a little bit of downtime, just being able to play a little bit of golf, catch my breath a little bit. But it's busy, but it's maybe one of the slower months, which is still busy, but it's not as busy as June. Because once June hits, June's a grind because every day is either camps or recruiting visits. Literally every day the first 3.5 weeks of June, I guess, or activities with our players in the months of June as well.
I mean, and even like when you have quote unquote downtime or vacation time. Remember, we have these coaches on during Birdies with Beamer. They'll tell stories about vacation, and vacation is sitting on the beach texting with recruits. We're taking phone calls from recruits. I could see being a coach. I could see my girlfriend. We're on the beach, vacation. I'm sitting here texting recruits. You know where my phone is, Dave? In about 15 minutes? In the ocean.
Yeah.
You're on bleeping vacation. But that's the world of a college football head coach, assistant coach, coordinator, whatever. Always recruiting in the SEC, man, never stops.
And he's in Rock Hill, where there's a ton of good football players.
Mm-hmm. They call it Football USA for a reason, or whatever they call it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rock the Hill.
Yep, there you go. So, I mean, it just never ends. It never stops now. And the calendar is so screwed up. The portal windows, just the recruiting. December is a mess. I'll tell you what else is kind of weird. And again, to be fair, these rules were put in place before the portal. But you flip the basketball. I know we're talking football, but you flip the basketball real quick. Colin Murray Boyles has to make a decision for, with the June 15 deadline. Now, to construct a roster, you need to have that done through the portal way before the NBA deadline to announce you're going to play in the draft. So unless you early on announce you're going into the draft and you hire an agent, you can always conceivably come back. Now, I don't think Colin Murray Boyles comes back. We're going to talk about that more in the 2 o'clock hour. But I just look at it like, this whole thing's screwed up. But to be fair, when it comes to basketball, those rules were put in place before the portal became what it is. But going back to football, that calendar is a disaster. And you have to try to navigate that. Plus, you're always recruiting. Not just, you're recruiting your own players, high school players, JUCO players, and portal players. That's all you're doing in different times of the year. It's insane. It's massively insane. So that's Shane right now, a little downtime, but then once June, the calendar flips, then it gets crazy. And then it's on. Are we talking about baseball tonight? 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch against Winthrop. The Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway is still going. Dave, it's good that we're not giving away money when the opposition hits Grand Slams. The opposition's hit 8 Grand Slams against South Carolina this year.
Yep.
Palmetto Citizens will be broke. Just saying.
2 last weekend, right? One inning.
Yes. But we're still doing the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. If a Gamecock batter goes yard, it's a Grand Slam. You can win cash. The pot goes up $25 every day. Right now, the pot is currently at $525. Go to 1075thegame.com to register. We are talking a ton of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We will shift to Gamecocks who are no longer Gamecocks. On the team, that is. They'll always be Gamecocks, obviously. Field Yates of ESPN put out his list of rookies who were not picked in the first round who you need to keep an eye on in 2025. 2 Gamecocks made the list. We'll tell you who and why next on the halftime show as we yap football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. The Men's Clinic of South Carolina, we talk about it a lot here on this show. Look, it serves a massive purpose for guys you're getting older and you don't sleep like you used to. You don't have any life drive, sex drive, professional drive, whatever the case. You're not as strong at the gym. You don't recover from exercise as well. You can't remember where you sit stuff or why you walk in a room. And you're flipping out, and all of it could just be low testosterone. It could be that easy. You got to go to the Men's Clinic, do a free confidential consultation with Dr. Dan and the crew. Tell them your story. If they think it could be low T, they'll do some lab work. If it comes back low testosterone, they will put you on a program. This is the best part of all this. They'll put you on a program that is specifically designed for you because we're all different people. No cookie cutter stuff works for everyone. A program specifically designed for you to get you back to feeling like you again. 803-875-MENS. Call the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Feel better. It could just be low T. Talking a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, like always, here on the Halftime Show, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. So Field Yates puts together, and he's from ESPN if you're not familiar with Field's work. Field did a post ranking 2025 NFL rookie impact for non-first-round picks. And we'll cut to the good stuff. Defensively, number 2, Nick Eamon-Warry of the Seattle Seahawks. Number 1, if you're interested, Carson Swessinger, linebacker for the Cleveland Browns, drafted from UCLA in the second round. But Eamon-Warry, and here's the little capsule. Seahawks coach Mike McDonald maximizes the talent of safeties, and few safeties have entered the NFL with Eamon-Warry's physical traits. 6'3", 220-pounder, runs a sub-4.4 40 and is explosive. Seahawks moving up on the board for him signals they believe Eamon-Warry can fit somewhere from the jump to help the team. Currently has the speed and range to play center field. Also see the size and physicality to play in the box as a big nickel. Thing with Eamon-Warry, again, yeah, you have him roving as a center field type. You know, Nick can do that. You just, again, put him in the slot to cover small, quick receivers man-to-man is not the place to put Nick. But if you put Nick back there kind of roaming around in a center field type capacity, or he's playing zone in pass coverage where Nick's using his eyes and, you know, covering ground, that's, to me, the best place to use Eamon-Warry in pass coverage. In the run game, Nick will come up and just slobber knocker you. I think Nick is going to staying healthy and playing for Mike McDonald in Seattle, who will maximize Nick. I saw what McDonald did in Baltimore with Kyle Hamilton. I think Nick's going to have a nice career if he stays healthy. I just do. And, you know, Nick's got that chip from not being a first-round pick, and you're always looking for motivation, man. I think Nick's going to have a nice career if he stays healthy. Demetrius Knight is number 4 on this list, linebacker with the Bengals. Again, the capsule from Field Yates. Cincinnati has worked to overhaul its defense this offseason, found a big plug-and-play starter in Knight, whose hard-hitting physical nature should bring an attitude adjustment to the Bengals' D. Knight finished his college career at South Carolina and was around the ball quite often. Had 3 forced fumbles, pair of sacks, and an interception last year. Now, again, the Bengals need defensive players who are on cheap rookie deals to step up because Cincinnati is spending all their money on wide receivers and a quarterback. That's just reality. They're not going to pay their excellent edge pass rusher, Trey Hendrickson. Right now, that's a thing going crazy. Hendrickson wants to get paid like he should get paid as one of the best edge rushers in the game. Cincinnati doesn't have the dough. They paid T. Higgins. They paid Jamar Chase. Obviously, they're paying Joe Burrow. And right now, Hendrickson says he hasn't even heard from the Bengals. So that shows you where they're at. They, because of what's going to happen with their salary cap situation, they need cheap, affordable talent being productive on rookie deals, and that could be Demetrius Knight. Plus, Knight in the locker room is going to be a man. He's a leader. That's just who he is. I think the Bengals getting Demetrius Knight was an excellent move because defensively, you need guys like Knight, especially when a team that's offense should score a ton of points, but their defense could give up a ton of points. So Demetrius Knight on this list, I think, is interesting. Again, the other a non-Carolina defender, Will Johnson, the corner. Arizona picked Johnson, number 47 overall. Johnson, healthy, is a first-round pick. There is a concern about the knee. If Johnson can come back from the knee injury that he had at Michigan, this cat can play some corner. But can he come back? He's never been like super fast, great ball skills, really good size, good instincts. But, you know, can he get the knee back to near 100% or 100%? And you have to play him in zone maybe if he can't. So if you're wondering, the offensive player, Tyler Shuck, is number 1 quarterback with the Saints. Why? Because Saints need a quarterback. Shuck's going to be battling Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner for the starting gig in New Orleans. Is Shuck ready? Of course not. No. Look, he's a big dude. Looks like a quarterback. I always love that one. Looks like a quarterback when he gets off the bus. He can move. He's mobile for a guy his size. He's got an NFL arm. But he's a guy, again, who has some trouble making some throws he shouldn't, trying to do some things he shouldn't at times. Stuff that didn't work in college and sure the heck won't work in the NFL. But Shuck has the physical traits. So he's number one on this list, just in case you were interested. And offensively, South Carolina has no offensive players on the list at all. So that's where Field Yates looks at Nick Manwari and also Demetrius Knight, who I do believe both can make an impact their rookie seasons with their teams. I really do. So we'll see moving forward. I also believe, look, TJ Sanders, I think TJ Sanders as a pass rusher can bring some stuff. I think TJ Sanders is going to need a little bit to get himself, physically, get himself ramped up to the NFL. And I think it's going to take a little bit more time with Sanders. But TJ Sanders, one thing he can bring is pass rush from the interior. So, but he's not on. He did not make the list from Field Yates. All right, we talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on The Game. We talk about baseball tonight. 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch against Winthrop. This weekend, the final SEC series of the year. South Carolina, LSU, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday, Friday, 6:45 pregame. Saturday, 2:45 pregame. That will end the season. Then we'll see where South Carolina is slotted in Hoover and game times. And obviously, we'll have those there, or those here on The Game in Columbia and our affiliate, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. All right, hey, Dave. Hey, Dave. Orlando Bruce came to see us today. You know Orlando Bruce, one of our buddies, one of our listener buds.
Oh, yeah.
Orlando Bruce actually came to the office on the 19th floor. He was so funny. He walks in, he goes, wow, you do have an office. Bruce is great. I love Orlando Bruce. And he came in, Elijah and I were hanging. And he brought a sticker for you, sir. Remember, you did not know South Carolina had a fishing team.
That's right.
Well, Orlando Bruce has an actual Gamecock sticker for the fishing team.
Wow.
And he brought this for you. I left it on my desk.
That, man.
I left it on my desk. When you go upstairs to do what you need to do later, remind me, I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
But you have a South Carolina fishing team sticker now. Thanks,
Donuts will be
Orlando
all
Bruce.
gone by then, right?
Huh?
Donuts will be all gone by then?
Oh, you just have a sticker, though, Dave. No, donuts will be gone. No, honestly, there's a pretty decent amount of donuts upstairs. I'm going to have to go upstairs and eat more. I don't want to go to waste. I'm a nice guy. I think
can
of
replay
others.
something from the morning show if you want to go up.
No, I'm just going to eat it myself. But I'll give you your sticker. Orlando Bruce, that was very cool of him. So thank you, Bruce. All right, we are continuing on our discussion of football. And a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Yesterday, since rookie mini camps have started in the NFL, we're talking about a couple teams and where they're at after the draft, moving into, the rookie mini camps. We focused yesterday on the Giants and the Steelers. I just gave the perception from the draft folks was that the Steelers were stupid for not taking a quarterback. And, man, the Giants, what a great move by the Giants to go back into the first round to get Jackson Dart. I did not agree with that. I really did. I thought the Steelers were smart, and I thought the Giants were talking themselves into something they're going to regret later. So now we'll turn our focus, since, there's a lot of NFC South interest because of the Panthers and, the Falcons, obviously, and the Saints. Also looked at Tampa Bay. We will focus on those Carolina Panthers, and we'll also take a look at the Atlanta Falcons. There's just maybe their draft and where they're at right now as we roll into rookie minicamp in the NFL. That is next here on the Halftime Show. David Dare, Terry Ford, till 3 on The Game. What we're talking about is a lot of football, like always, in the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. All right, so as we look at where teams are right now, rookie mini camps are going, draft is over. Let's focus real quick on the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons, obviously, Michael Penix Jr. is now the quarterback. Kirk Cousins is still on the roster. I guess if you're the Falcons, you're going, look, if somebody comes to us, they need a quarterback, they give us something of value, we'll trade him gladly. If not, we have a very experienced backup quarterback. And Kirk Cousins doesn't seem like the kind of dude who's going to cause a lot of problems because he might sit there and go, have you seen my stats? Why am I the backup? No, I don't think Cousins is that guy. Cousins is like, you see my bank account? Yeah, sure, I'll hold a clipboard, whatever. So the quarterback situation, we'll see what Michael Penix Jr. becomes. Not the most mobile cat in the world, but very accurate. There's a lot of really nice things, but, you know, the health issues are there from college. But your quarterback position, you're hoping Penix is your guy. You got some talent at wide receiver, at running back. I mean, you are, you know, you've got some positives in Atlanta. And then you want to fix a pass rush that's anemic. And in the draft in the first round, you did a good thing by taking Jalen Walker at number 15, a guy looked at as a top 10 talent. It fell to you at 15. Walker can do multiple things. One thing is he can get after quarterbacks. So that was good move number one. I'm going to go against this. Again, just my opinion, and could I be wrong? Absolutely. Getting James Pierce Jr., trading up to get James Pierce Jr. is good and bad. Here's the good. The good is, I think James Pierce Jr. can be a hell of a pass rusher. I mean, he is electric off the edge. It's like you're shooting this dude out of a cannon. He's explosive, he's quick, he's fast. I think Pierce Jr., the biggest problem with James Pierce Jr. is technical. He's not the most technically sound player in the world off the edge. So that's something you can work on. But you can't teach the speed, quickness, explosiveness that Pierce brings off the edge going after a quarterback. You can't teach that. So trading up to get Pierce the player, and even last year there was quote-unquote an off year, the dude had like 50 pressures or 50-some pressures, despite the fact he was being doubled. The problem is Atlanta gave up too much to go get Pierce. They just gave up too much. Pierce was looked at by a lot of teams because the technical stuff and a few other things as a guy that would probably be a second-round pick, upper second round, but a second-round pick. Maybe bottom of the first round. If you're Atlanta, you could have held off, and made a trade where you give up less. Atlanta gave up way too much to move up in the first round to get Pierce. They could have waited a little bit until they absolutely had to pull the trigger on a trade and given up less than the Falcons did. Now, the only thing that could change that opinion is if Atlanta was competing or bidding against somebody else to get that draft spot. Or they heard somebody was going to trade up to go get Pierce and they wanted to beat the offer or better the offer. Or were they played against another team for leverage and negotiation purposes? But the Falcons gave up a lot to go get Pierce. So you can do the right thing and get a guy who I think could be a really good pass rusher, but also did a bad thing by giving up way too much to go get him. But if James Pierce Jr. turns into an all-pro, nobody cares. Nobody cares. If, it's a great move, or, wow, you gave up too much, no one's going to blink about what you gave up if James Pierce Jr. is an elite player in the NFL. That's the way it works. Now, Carolina, they go get McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, with the 8th pick overall. Was that a little high for McMillan? Yeah, probably. But again, if Carolina had McMillan that high on their board, okay, I just hope you're right. You know, behind Travis Hunter, there were people who thought McMillan was the second best wide receiver in the draft. Some people thought Matthew Golden of Texas was the second best wide receiver in the draft. Again, I think you could, if you were Carolina, this is what I thought when this was going down. If you're Carolina and McMillan, the next wide receiver did not go until 19. And that's Ibuka from Ohio State. If you're Carolina, knowing that the next team that possibly could have drafted a wide receiver was Dallas, really. But obviously the Cowboys reached for a guard who could be really good, but it was a reach in the first round. If you look at the board, you could have traded down from 8 to 11 if you were scared the Cowboys were going to take a wide receiver and accumulated more draft capital if you were Carolina. Or even if, you know, Dallas would draft a receiver, if you like McMillan and Golden and Ibuka all about the same, you could have traded down even lower in the first round and got draft capital and still got a wide receiver and possibly still got McMillan in the middle of the first round. You could have worked the board different. And that's the thing about the draft. It's not just who you traded for or who you draft, but you can make a trade and get more draft picks to help build your team because you stink. And you could get the stink off of you. You know, all the really good teams that draft say you want as many bites at the apple as possible. So Carolina could have got more bites at the apple to fix their bad football team if they would have traded down. They still could have got a wide receiver. That was my biggest thing, is you could have traded down and still got a really good wide out with a first-round grade. But Carolina stuck at 8, took McMillan. Now, maybe there was some intel they got. Again, you never know this stuff, that somebody else was sniffing around McMillan, and they really liked him. So in Carolina's mind, they had to take McMillan at 8. Okay, again, I hope you're right. McMillan catches everything, jump ball guy, red zone guy. You know, well, he did have some drops last year, to be fair. I shouldn't say catches everything. He did have some drops last year. But he's a red zone dude. He is a jump ball guy, big catch radius, but he's not very fast. He's going to have some trouble separating in the NFL. Hopefully he's going to be like Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins. But when you're a big guy that doesn't separate well, you got to be real precise in your route tree. So hopefully it works, because Bryce Young needs all the weapons he can get. You put McMillan with Leggett, you got some really nice upside at wide receiver with 2 young guys on rookie deals. But I just thought Carolina could have traded down, still got either McMillan or a wide receiver they really liked, and they could have added some more draft picks. That's just me. That's just me. And New Orleans reached all over the place, man. I really, again, if it works, nobody cares. You know, Kelvin Banks was looked at as a guy you could pick later in the first round. So again, if you love Kelvin Banks enough to take Kelvin Banks at 9, you could have traded down, because the next offensive lineman taken was by the Cowboys at 12 with Booker, the guard. But you could have traded down and still got an offensive lineman. And still got Banks. And could have added some draft picks. New Orleans just, they were in a body cast from all the reaching they did in this draft. And you don't have a quarterback. You still got a lot of dead weight on the roster for cap space, guys who used to be good are not as good as they used to be. And you keep kicking the can down the road, redoing deals. And if you're New Orleans, just stop. You know, Drew Brees ain't walking through that door. Sean Payton ain't walking through that door. Marquise Colston's not walking through that door. It's time to understand where you're at, and it's time to rebuild this thing. It just is. I mean, sometimes you sit in a division that's not very good, and you get this idea, ooh, we're only a couple of plays away from being in the postseason. Yeah, but then you go in the postseason and get your skull kicked in, because the only reason you are in the playoffs is because you're in a bad division. Redo your roster, rebuild it, accumulate draft capital, and get yourself back to really competing for meaningful stuff. And just New Orleans, they've been tone deaf, man. Just tone deaf. We talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on The Game. And hopefully, you're watching us as we do our cool little At The Game TV radio, Game TV. It's powered by Integrated Media, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. You can just go to YouTube, or you can go to our website, 1075thegame.com. It's available there. It's available on multiple platforms. You can just chill and watch us talk. I'll try to de-shine my head so you can check us out at The Game TV Radio on YouTube, The Game TV. Also, you can just download our 1075 The Game app and listen to us anywhere. You can do that, iTunes, Play Store. Feel free. Firehouse Up Text the Hour is next at 803-404-6100. It is the halftime show as we talk football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on The Game. Firehouse Sub text of the hour. Sponsored by our buds at Firehouse Subs. 803-404-6100. Regarding Shane, and we played some Welcome Home earlier, discussing the whole thing with Rashul Faison and what's going on with the NCAA. Texter Joel says, is this the NCAA just doing anything they can to keep relevant, to make all these players sweat through their eligibility issues because it's the only thing the NCAA has left because basically they're toothless? I won't argue with you. I won't. Look, these guys have been, I'm going to try to be nice. These guys have been hypocrites. These guys have been power mongers. These guys have been tone deaf. These guys have been so many negative things over the years because of the greediness and just the power-hungry nature of the people at the NCAA. And it's not everybody. There's some people there who actually want to do work the right way, who actually care about the student-athlete, who actually care about collegiate sports. There are people there who do that. They're just wiped out by the goons who just care about lining their pockets with money and being able to wield power against a bunch of 18 to 24-year-olds. And that's part of the problem. And it would not surprise me at all if that is the NCAA holding on to any sliver of power to lord over anything, is to go, yeah, we'll make that kid wait. That's what we'll do. We'll show him, we'll make him sweat. Yeah. Look at us. We still got power. Okay. You go. Like I said earlier, I think Faison will be granted the final year of eligibility to play at South Carolina because it seems like he's got more of a case than Diego Pavia, and Pavia is playing. Because, again, Pavia got an attorney, and you're going to go sue the NCAA, and once you're suing the NCAA, you know you're going to win because they're terrible in court. They're awful. Embarrassingly awful. So, you know, Faison hiring legal representation will probably help him and get this thing done and finished, and then Faison will get moving on to play for South Carolina. Faison is working his business like he's a member of the team, which is a smart thing to do, by the way. But I won't disagree with the texter on the whole thing of is this the NCAA still trying to show they got some juice when they have no juice? The only thing the NCAA has left that's got anything regarding juice is the NCAA tournament. That's their bazillion-dollar cash cow. Because remember, the NCAA, when it comes to truly running football, yeah, they got nothing. They got nothing. It's really, before it's all said and done, the Big Ten and the SEC will be running college football. It's coming. You already see what could be happening regarding the playoff. Both schools, both conferences are going to want automatic bids, 4 apiece. Which leads us into our Twitter poll. We haven't done a Twitter poll here in a minute, which is, I blame Dave. Why not? We blame Dave for everything when he's here or not. So, but you're used to it from the other place you work, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
We just wanted to make you feel at home like the old days.
Oh, great.
Poll question of the day. Are you in favor of a 16-team college football playoff with the SEC and Big Ten getting 4 auto bids apiece? So far, we've only been doing this for roughly 2 hours. Already we got over 1,200 folks viewing it. Thank you very much. 94 votes. Thank you very much. 57% said yes. 43% said no. Now, once again, we're in SEC country. 57% say yes, they do want to see a 16-team college football playoff with the SEC and Big Ten getting 4 auto bids, which takes up obviously 8 spots of the 16. I'm in favor of 16-team playoff. Let's just get it over with and get to it. You get the Power 4 leagues, you got 4 power leagues left. I think the group of 5, they get a seat at the table. I love that. I think that's just fair. If you want to give 4 bids to the Big Ten and 4 bids to the SEC, okay, have at it. Go get them. And then you'll have, and obviously if Notre Dame's really good, they get in because, well, they're Notre Dame. And at the end of the day, then you have your at-large. Now, let's just go by that premise real quick. Let's just go with 4 auto bids, and we'll start with the SEC, looking at last year's final college football playoff ranking before, the playoffs started. Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama would be the 4 automatics from the SEC. 4 automatics from the Big Ten would be Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Indiana. There's your 8. Boise State's a group of 5 is your 9. Notre Dame, obviously, would be the 10th one there. Then you're looking at 6 more. The Big 12 would have gotten Arizona State. The ACC gets Clemson. Now you got 12 and you're down to 4. Who's left of the ones we haven't picked yet? You would then have Miami, SMU, Ole Miss, South Carolina. So if you go by this exercise, the SEC would have ended up with, and I'm going by the college football playoff rankings in front of me. SEC would have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of the 16. And the Big Ten would have knocked off 1, 2, 3, 4, and just their 4 autos. 6 for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten. And then you would have had, the ACC would have had 2, and the Big 12 would have only had 1. That's the way it would have gone if you go by this, this exercise. What's trending at 2 is next. Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions on the game. It's what's trending at 2 on the halftime show, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions here on the game. Terry Ford, David Ayer, Tyler will be back on Monday. He's in Nashville hanging out. What's trending at 2, Monte Lee talking to the media, not the media, talking to the postgame show, I should say. Yesterday, filling in for head coach Paul Maneri, talking Carolina baseball with Jay and Elijah. We played in the noon hour, Monte discussing how the Gamecock coaching staff is going about recruiting. Here's Monte talking about, this could cut 4, Dave, the need to have, like, yes, the transfer portal is important, but you need to have players that you bring in like old school from high school that are homegrown and developed in your program. Again, cut 4, Monte Lee talking about the need for just the old school way to develop your roster.
Another thing that we've got to look at too, just in the short amount of time that I've been back here, you look at, the guys on the mound and the position players that have been successful in this program. Look, the portal is super, super important to us. We're going to have to go into the transfer portal and recruit at a very, very high level. But you look at the Will Sanders, you look at the Jack Mahoneys, the Cole Messinas, the Ethan Petries, the Braylon Wimmers, just in the last 3 years. Like, we've got to make sure that the high school players that we're bringing in, that we can get guys in here and develop them from within. That's going to be the bread and butter out of South Carolina. And the 2026 class that we have has 10 plus commitments, and it's a very talented class. We've got to get back to that. That's what Jim Tolman would do. It was high school kids, sprinkle in some JUCO kids, and now you've got guys like Justin Smoke and Landon Powell and, those types of players who can come in and be in the program for 3 years. The 2022 season was a tough one at South Carolina. They hit the portal incredibly hard, and it's been simply, we got to keep going into the portal. And again, you can get good in a hurry in the portal if you hit on the guys you sign in the portal, and we're going to have to continue to do that. But we also can't lose sight of the fact that there needs to be consistency and sustainability within the coaching staff, and there also needs to be high school kids coming in this program who can step in and compete right away so that you have a chance to really, really be good. You look at those championship teams at South Carolina, it was full of kids that came in as freshmen and made contributions and got better and better and better. That's where you're going to get your superstars.
Yeah, I mean, look, the portal is that bright, shiny thing, right? It's just the way this goes. Everybody loves the portal. It's like, again, it's college free agency. And just like free agency in professional sports, we'll focus baseball. Well, you can focus NFL too, or the NBA in a lot of ways. But really, the NFL and Major League Baseball, you can go win free agency, but if you're not drafting well and developing well, that's really the foundation of your team. And it's the same thing in college. You can go out, like Monte said, and I agree with this 1,000,000,000%. Monte said you can go out, and if you hit it in the portal, like, again, Carolina basketball 2 years ago, if you can nail it in the portal with a couple of very important additions, like Talon Cooper and B.J. Mack, you can get your team back on the road quick. But if you have to go to that portal every year, there are going to be years you swing and miss really bad. And we've seen it in all different sports. There have been teams who have just flipped themselves up, like Indiana last year. Coach Signetti came in there, brought a bunch of transfer portal guys with him, and it worked, and Indiana ended up in the college football playoff. But you can do that, and it can be a disaster. We saw it in basketball. There were teams who did a lot of portal shopping in college basketball last year, didn't make the NCAA tournament. Kansas State spent a ton of money in the portal and went all over themselves. But if you have a foundation of high school players that you recruit and develop, and then you sweeten up spots on your team through the portal, that's really the ideal way to do this. Because that foundation you develop, they learn your culture, They learn about your program, and they are what you want from a developmental standpoint because you have ingrained your culture in them. When you get guys in the portal, yeah, there are times you can get the Kyle Kennards and the D Knights and Rocket Sanders and guys who are all in about team. You get that, and you get guys who come in, just Wells, and they come in, they just care about the bag, and they care about their numbers and themselves, and they care about the back of the jersey more than the front. So you're always rolling the dice in the portal. As smart as you think you are, look, Eric Musselman, when Musselman was the head basketball coach at Arkansas, for a few years straight, killed it in the portal. Arkansas is getting the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16. And then 2 years ago, Musselman's last season in Fayetteville, Musselman swung and missed bad. And Arkansas missed the NCAA tournament. Then Musselman took off and grabbed Southern Cal's money. So, yes, Monte is correct. You want to, in a perfect world, build the foundation of your program through the old school way of high school recruiting and development. Let's get one more Monte Lee here, Dave. Talking about the need of stability in the program from a coaching perspective. Let's get cut 5.
I'll tell you guys, like one of the things that we've got to, you say, like, what do we have to get back to? I think one of the things that has not been discussed or has not been talked about is there's been a tremendous amount of turnover here, and we need stability in this program. I mean, I look at our players, and some of the guys just on our pitching staff alone, that were recruited by Skylar Meade, and then Justin Parker coached them, and then Matt Williams coached them, and then Terry Rooney's coached them. I mean, you just think about, since 2021, there's been 4 pitching coaches in this program. When you look at from a recruiting standpoint and a consistency standpoint, day in, day out messaging, year in, year out, there's been a lot of turnover and a lot of change. On the hitting end, there's players in this program that were recruited by Trip Couch and by Chad Kaye and by myself. There's been a lot of change in the assistant coaches positions, here at South Carolina in the last 5 years. I think when you look back to, when Coach Tanner was here, Coach Tanner had 2 pitching coaches his whole tenure, and, had 3, main recruiters. Had Jim Tolman for a long, long time, and my prayers are with Jim Tolman. I think we're all aware of what Coach Tolman is going through right now. But Jim Tolman was his right-hand man, and a huge reason why this program was so successful during Coach Tanner's tenure. I took over for Jim when he left for Liberty for 1 year, and then I became a head coach, and then Chad Holbrook came in and took over for me. So when you look at, again, if you want sustainable success in a program, there needs to be some consistency and sustainability within the coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, that helps, right? Because you're getting a consistent message and a consistent voice. But with all these different assistant coaches bringing their own different philosophies, that's a thing, especially pitching coaches. I mean, just in the last 3 years, the pitchers have had 3 different pitching coaches, or in the last 4 years, 3 different pitching coaches. I mean, different philosophies. And we saw the pitchers regress. Matthew Becker was never this bad before than he has been this year. Brandon Stone was a very sought-after JUCO, and with the highest-rated JUCO pitcher in the portal. Or JUCO pitcher, rather, not in the portal. But some guys' track records didn't match the lack of performance this year. Now, was that the player? Was that the coaching? I don't know. But you do want consistency in your coaches. You want consistency in your program in general, and it starts with your coaching staff. So, yes, Monte is not incorrect there at all. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Tradition. Speaking of baseball, Braves last night got a win, 4-3 over the Nats. Braves had a 3-2 lead. Iglesias came in, the closer, and blew it. as Dylan Cruz reached on an infield single that scored the tying run. Then Alex Verdugo singled in the go-ahead run, the game-winning run, I should say, in the bottom of the ninth. One of Verdugo's 2 hits. Braves win 4-3. It's a shame, because I tell you, they wasted a really good starting pitching performance by Grant Holmes, who went 6 innings, gave up 1 earned run. Iglesias hasn't been right all year. ERA of over 6. He struggled all season. That was Iglesias' 3rd blown save. Yeah. Iglesias has got to get it back together. There's no doubt. Marcell Ozuna had 2 more knocks last night. Also, Michael Harris, not batting in the leadoff spot, dropped in the order. There's been a lot of struggling this year with Harris. He also had 2 base hits as well. So Atlanta wins 4-3 over the Nats. Braves now game under 500 at 20-21 after that awful start to kick the season in when they started 0-7. And we've discussed this. No team that started 0-7 has ever made the postseason, because most teams that start 0-7, they're just terrible the whole year. Braves are looked at coming into the year as a team that should win 90-plus games and make the postseason. So a team this good has never started that bad. And right now the Braves are sitting about 6.5 games out of first place, 4.5 games behind the Phillies for second. Not bad when you consider the start that you had. And there's still a long way to go in the season. The Braves are only 3.5 out of the last wild card spot. So if you get people healthy and guys start playing the way they're supposed to, Atlanta's still got plenty of time to get themselves right and get in the postseason. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We'll come back. Shane Beamer doing his welcome home in Rock Hill, talked about what freshmen you could see on the field. A lot. And it's not who you think. That's coming up next. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions, right here on 107.5 The Game. Oh, what's trending at 2? Shane Beamer in Rock Hill and a welcome home. Shane talked about a bunch of different things for like 7-8 minutes with the media. One thing that Shane was asked was talk about freshmen who you could see on the field in 2025. And he does bring up the wide receivers and some others. And then he brings a specific name up, and you probably will go, wow, didn't expect to hear that name. Here's Shane Beamer last night at the Rock Hill welcome home.
I think you look at the wide receiver position, and naturally, just because of the depth that you want to have at that position, we don't want to go into a game and just play these 3 receivers every snap. I mean, we want to be able to rotate guys and be 6 deep, if you will, where you're playing at least 2 guys on the out, or 2 guys, X, Z, F, if you think of it that way, in the slot and on the outside, being able to have 2 guys in each position. So we'd like to have a depth of about 6 guys at least that we rotate in there. If we have more, that's even better. So if you say, okay, you're going to try and play 6 receivers, naturally you look at those freshman receivers. There's going to be a handful of them, if not all of them, that are going to play a lot. I feel confident saying right now that Shed Surratt, the freshman offensive lineman, put himself in position coming out of spring to play a lot. And then, beyond that, it really just kind of depends. But we're trying to get them all ready to play. There's no question about it. And how quickly they can show that we can get them out there, we want to get them out there as quick as possible.
Shed Surratt, offensive lineman, guard, basically. Could be playing a lot. And again, guard, it's up in the air, man. Could be one of the transfer portal guys, Newsom or Sharp, or both. Could be Trevon Ball, a Tree Babalade, a Shed Surratt now, a Marquis Anderson. You got a lot of options to fill those 2 guard spots that you have open. But Shed Surratt, I thought was pretty interesting to hear. And the wide receivers, if you went to the spring game, a lot of those young guys have some stuff there, man. They really do. You walked away really impressed with the young wide receivers. And the hope is that a couple of them can pop and be productive as freshmen, sort of like Mazio Bennett last year. Yeah, but there were moments you didn't know Bennett was on the field, but there were moments also Bennett really made a big difference. So if you could get production like Mazio Bennett somewhere down that road out of your freshman wide receivers, a couple of them, that'd be nice. All right, also what's trending at 2, sponsored by Tristan's Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Minnesota Vikings will become the first team in NFL history to play 2 consecutive international games in 2 different countries. The international slate of games was unveiled today. NFL announced the Vikings will play the Steelers on September 28th in Dublin. It's the league's first regular season game in Ireland. That should be fun. There will be no sober people anywhere in Dublin that day. Second game, the Vikings will then travel the following Sunday to take on the Cleveland Browns in London at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Both games will be roadies for the Vikings. So basically, the Browns will play a home game in London against Minnesota, and the Steelers will play a home game in Dublin versus the Vikings. Now, I'll say this. Usually, this is Jacksonville's there, because, not to be mean, it's not like the Jags fans are rabid for those fine quality home games in Jacksonville. I mean, the pool seems like fun. But a lot of times the NFL will have teams play overseas, and it'll be that team's home game because, the home fans aren't as rabid. But Pittsburgh and Cleveland losing home games. Now, look, both of those, you say what you want about the Browns on the field. I worked in Ohio for 2 years. Cleveland loves the Browns. They do. Unless something's changed in the last few years, Cleveland loves the Browns. They sell that stadium out. They are rabid about Cleveland Browns football. And to take away a home game from Cleveland kind of stinks. Take away a home game from Pittsburgh stinks. Again, I have a pretty good idea about what goes on in Pittsburgh. Again, where I worked in Ohio, I was an hour away from Pittsburgh. And then, of course, being a Ravens fan, I've watched the Ravens-Steelers, the best rivalry in the NFL for years. And I know folks who have gone to Steeler games. That place rocks. And even though I'm a Ravens fan, I mean, when they pop Renegade from Styx, that stadium is insane. So taking away a home game from Pittsburgh, I think is. I don't think that's right either Cleveland or Pittsburgh. But that's what they're doing. So, but Minnesota gets 2 games back to back, one in Ireland, one in London, and the Vikings will be the road team in both of them. So, also what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. I want to get it in. Our Twitter poll is going on. Question of the day: What are you in favor of a 16-team college football playoff with the SEC and Big Ten getting 4 auto bids apiece? 55% of our voters say yes, 45% say no. You got plenty of time to vote. Still another 21 and a half hours. We've got over 100 votes so far and over 1,400 people looking at it. Thank you very much. But that is a poll question. I'm in favor of a 16-team playoff. I am. And I think the Big Ten and the SEC are going to get their way and get 4 auto bids before it's all said and done because they have all the juice. They have all the power. Just flat out do. They will do what the heck they want before it's all said and done. All right, a couple NBA notes real quick. First of all, Knicks beat the Celtics last night. Again, the Knicks made all the plays in the fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson was phenomenal in the second half, especially third quarter. Celtics shot their way to a double-digit lead and then shot their way out of it like they have the whole series with way too many threes, especially quick threes early in the shot clock. And the Knicks won the game. Problem was Jason Tatum got hurt. It looks bad. Non-contact injury. He's low on the ground, calling a timeout himself, grabbing the back of his from where your heel area is going up toward your calf. Again, hope I'm wrong. It looks like it's an Achilles. Hope I'm wrong. But we've seen this type of non-contact. You move, crumble to the ground, grab that part of your body, and then we hear it's an Achilles. We'll see. But it's 3-1 Knicks. Could the Celtics come back and win the series with Tatum? Sure. Without Tatum, I know. No. So I believe the Knicks will move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe they might not win Game 5 in Boston. I don't see a Game 7, especially with no Tatum. Also, last night, the Timberwolves beat Golden State without Steph Curry. T-Wolves are up 3-1. Indiana's up 3-1 against Cleveland. The Cavs have a lot of talent, but, again, Donovan Mitchell's beat up. But Mitchell will play. You feel like you're going to see Indiana and New York in the East. Out West, it'll be Minnesota. I think Oklahoma City will outlast Denver. You'll get Minnesota, Oklahoma City in the West to fight it out to see who plays in the NBA Finals. That's just my... And I'll say this. Oklahoma City's, if they get past Denver, they're going to have a fight on their hands with Minnesota. Minnesota's really good. And the Knicks, yeah, you might get by the Celtics, but don't look at Indiana as an easy out. Indiana's been one of the best teams in the NBA the last 3 months. Indiana will be a tough out. Now, of course, the conspiracy theorist will say, well, the NBA wants the Knicks in the finals because, you know, it's market number one. It's New York City. Duh, yeah. But if the NBA wanted the Knicks in anything so bad, why have the Knicks been a hot pile for almost 50 years? So that'll be the way that I feel like the Final Four will play itself out is Indiana, New York in the East, Oklahoma City, and Minnesota out West. Then there was the draft lottery. Dave hit it. In case you missed this thing, the draft lottery last night, it was the Wizards, the Hornets, and the Jazz were in the best position to get the number 1 pick overall, which will be Cooper Flagg of Duke. But here is what happened last night.
The second pick will be made by the San Antonio Spurs, and that means that the number 1 pick in the 2025 NBA Draft goes to the Dallas Mavericks.
Yep. Dallas Mavericks get the first pick overall, and if Dallas keeps the pick, which is there's no guarantee, obviously they take Cooper Flagg, and then they would have Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving. That's pretty nice. I think Cooper Flagg's going to be a really good player if he stays healthy. Plays both ends of the court, can shoot the three, can create for himself, excellent passer, good rebounder, shot blocker. And Cooper Flagg, if healthy, will be the real deal. Remember, Cooper Flagg last year should have been in high school. He reclassified. Now, there's talk that Giannis Antetokounmpo could be available in Milwaukee. And would the Bucks go to Dallas and say, hey, how about Giannis for the first pick overall and another player or two or assets or something? There's word Milwaukee might do that. Now, again, just on the surface, I would take Giannis Antetokounmpo over Cooper Flagg because Giannis is proven. Giannis is only 30. He's still got some years left before physically he starts to fall apart. I don't know. I think Cooper Flagg is going to be really, really, really good. I don't know. I know what Giannis is, which is a ridiculous, ridiculous player, an all-NBA player. Even the Bucks have gone backwards as a team. Giannis is still phenomenal. What is the average like? He's at just 30 points a game, almost double-digit boards. Giannis passes it. He'll give you 4, 5, 6 assists a night. I mean, Giannis is an excellent player. Defensively, he still goes after it. You know what you're getting with that guy. I would make that deal. But if Dallas would, that's a clunky setup with Anthony Davis and Giannis and Kyrie Irving. And how do you figure that mess out? And Davis and Giannis kind of play the same areas of the court. And so fit-wise, I don't know if you can make it fit. I think Dallas will keep the pick and take Cooper Flagg. That's what I think Dallas will do. But there's going to be some interesting stuff out there as teams will chase that pick because I think Dallas will be listening. We'll see. We'll see. Hey, Dave, you know what we're going to get to do? Next segment? Give away tickets to the Fireflies.
Oh, okay.
I know how much you like that. We're going to do 2 family 4-packs coming up for the Fireflies Augusta game tomorrow night at 7:05. So we'll do that in the next segment.
Do they have those things called igloos at every game?
I don't know, Dave. Sure. Why not? I'll just make something up. Greatest day in the history of the world is next on the halftime show here on the game. rip through the greatest day in the history of the world, which is May 13th, here on the Halftime Show. We always like to throw a little old school at you from way back in the old days. 1952, in an Appalachian League minor league contest, I'll try to get the last name right, Ron Necia of the Bristol Twins strikes out 27 hitters while throwing a 7-0 no-hitter against the Welch Miners. You're saying, wow, this Ron guy must be pretty good, Tara. Did he have a great major league career? Well, no. Necia, like I said, struck out those 27 batters in a 7-0 no-hitter. 4 Welch batters did reach base in this game via walk, error, hit batsman, and pass ball. Only 2 batters put the ball in play. That's it. One was a ground out, and one was getting on base by error. That's it. Now, Necia threw 43 innings for Bristol and struck out 109 hitters. Then in the Carolina League, struck out 172 and 126 innings. So, yeah, this guy, I mean, he could whiff dudes. But then he got to the majors at 20, was 1-6, 7.08 ERA, only struck out 31 and 54 and 2/3 innings. That was it. A pitch for the Pittsburgh Pirates. That was all. That was it. 1 year, and was not very good. Then Ron went to the military, got a medical discharge, returned to baseball. A lot of injuries again. Had stomach ulcers, torn rotator cuff. Never could overcome the injuries, and then later began a successful career in the sporting goods industry. So there you go. There you go. That's Ron Necia. I mean, think about that. 27 strikeouts in a game in the minors in 1952. 1958, one of the most underrated superstars in the history of baseball, in my opinion, Stan Musial gets his 3,000th hit at Wrigley Field for the St. Louis Cardinals. 1976, the New York Nets come back from 22 points down in the third quarter to beat the Denver Nuggets and win the last ABA championship. You know who was on those teams? This is pretty cool. The Nets had some dude named Julius Erving. Yeah, he was pretty good. Julius Erving, other guys who were good ballers back in that time, a guy named John Williamson, a dude named Brian Taylor. Also, Al Skinner, who later became a successful college basketball coach. He was also a solid player back in the ABA, as was Rich Jones. Denver had Dan Issel, Hall of Famer. Also had Bobby Jones, who was one of the best 6 men when he played in the NBA for the Sixers. A very young Monte Tao, who was the point guard at NC State when the Wolfpack won the national championship. And his teammate, you might have heard of this guy, David Thompson, who was a phenomenal player till a lot of stuff unfortunately derailed his career. That was the ABA championship, the last one in 76. Greatest day in the history of the world here on the Halftime Show on the Game. 1993, George Brett, his 300th home run. He was like my second favorite player was George Brett. He hit his 300th home run on this day in 1993. You know, this thing called the America's Cup yachting used to kind of matter. 1995, Team New Zealand sweeps the America's Cup, beating Dennis Conner. Again, 5-0, America losing. And New Zealand and America had a real rivalry. I remember it was on ESPN all the time when I was a kid. Yeah, racing boats. It was a thing. And the U.S. used to be really good at it. 2005, Tiger Woods, get this, Tiger Woods had made 142 consecutive cuts over 7 years on the PGA Tour. Tiger Woods missed the cut at the Byron Nelson on this day in 2005, ending that streak of 142 consecutive cuts made. Tiger needed a par on the 18th hole, and he missed the 15-foot putt to keep that streak alive. Also, in the greatest day in the history of the world, at 16 years and 65 days, Matthew Briggs debuts for Fulham in a 3-1 defeat of Middlesbrough, the youngest player to appear in an English Premier League match at that time in 2007. 2012, we'll throw another little soccer one at you. Manchester City wins the English title for the first time in 44 years, taking out Queen's Park 3-2. 2012 PGA Players Championship at Sawgrass, Matt Kuchar wins by 2 strokes. 2014, Henrik Lundstrom sets an NHL record, his 5th straight Game 7 victory. Rangers beat the Penguins to earn a spot in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that is your greatest day in the history of the world. May the 13th, Dave? Is it May 13th? Yes, May 13th. How about that? We're going to give away 2 family 4-packs of tickets to go check out the Fireflies and Augusta tomorrow night. 2 family 4-packs. 803-404-6100. Callers number 5 and number 6 will win again. 803-404-6100. 2 family 4-packs. Go check out the Fireflies tomorrow night. Callers number 5 and 6, give us a holler right now. 803-404-6100, and we'll get you all set up there. Also, baseball tonight here on the Game in Columbia, and also our affiliate in Myrtle Beach at 100.3 The Game. Winthrop tonight at Founders, 6:15 pregame. 6:30 first pitch. You can hear it right here again on the Game in Columbia and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach. And again, callers number 5 and 6 want to go see the Fireflies. Give us a ring, 803-404-6100, and you can win a family 4-pack. Come back. We'll get our Firehouse Sub Text the hour and also yip a bit with Jay Phillips as we do the handoff, sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine on the halftime show as we go for a little bit longer. And then the post-game show takes over right here on the Game. Get our Firehouse subtext the hour in here, 803-404-6100, as we talk more about the freshman for South Carolina. Texter hits up. It's like, well, they're going to have to play. The freshmen are. With all the players that South Carolina lost to graduation, freshmen have to step in. Yeah, I mean, there are going to be some freshmen who are going to play. There will be some freshman wide receivers. You might see some freshmen on the defensive side of the ball get playing time. I mean, you lost, 37, 38 seniors? Absolutely. You're going to need some freshmen to step up and play. It's just part of the deal when you lose that many guys. Now, the freshman wide receivers, I mean, at the spring game, you watch those guys. Again, all of them look like there was some potential. And if you get a couple of those guys to bring you something, like Mazio Bennett did last year, I mean, that's great. We'll see if maybe there's going to be some freshmen at linebacker on the edge. You got a lot of spots, Jay Phillips. You got to fill up. Some freshmen need to help you out a little bit.
Yeah, but that's where we are. I mean, and I think, I don't know how many have to, other than receiver, I don't know how many have to make an immediate impact. I don't know that you get the same kind of seasons that you had a couple of years ago from Nick and DQ, who weren't supposed to do what they did and then ended up.
I mean, you can't expect anyone to step up and be Dylan Stewart. That's just insane to expect that.
That's in that kind of clowny realm of just I'm better than you.
I am. I remember watching the spring game last year with him, and you didn't have to be a genius to go, wow, that dude's really good coming off the edge.
And some people are, right? I mean, just like, again, it's like the Homer Simpson, Darryl Strawberry thing.
Right.
You play right field. Yes, I play right field. So, are you better than me? I've never met you, but yes.
Well, I'll tell you, this year, too, in the spring game, we're sitting up in the booth, and it's almost like you got to take Dylan Stewart out of this game. He's disrupting everything. You couldn't do anything if you were over the opposing offense because he was making everything massively difficult. Mm-hmm. That's just how good he was. And you split up your offensive lines. You got injuries. Guys aren't playing. It just wasn't fair. It was like, you got to stop him. Get him off the field. But anyway, again, at the end of the day, you're going to need some help from some freshmen. You don't need them to be stars. Just if you need them to help you out in whatever situation it will be, if they can be productive and helpful, if nothing else, to add depth in case you need them to play some snaps or some reps. Yes, in the world of today, especially when you lose that many upperclassmen, you're going to need some guys to step in there and help you out.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they're still looking for, if there's any, as Shane has said, if there's somebody still in the portal, they'll take a look.
We were having fun with it today. We were talking to Chris Clark this morning, and he just said, the portal's closed, but there's still guys in it.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of some really bad Doctor Who sci-fi. They're beating on the portal door. Let me out. Give me a team. I got to get out.
Well, and that's, I feel badly for some of those guys that do believe the grass is always greener. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's what is or isn't happening. I had not checked the portal availability in, I don't want to say ever, but.
Some guys get bad advice, man. Or some guys just think a lot highly.
No, some guys give themselves. Yes, some guys give themselves bad advice.
I'm gonna go out there and watch me, and then now just look at the phone.
Yeah,
did I pay for my cell phone?
Yeah.
I paid the bill, but it just happens. But I thought it was funny. I got that mental picture of guys. Quick, help us break down the portal door, and we can run to safety. But so.
Pulling for you, kid.
Yeah, exactly. We're doing our handoff sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine with Jay Phillips of the postgame show. All right, so you and I have yipped about the SEC going to 9 games forever. Mm-hmm. And it's going to happen at some point. ESPN has now cracked the door open saying, sure, we'll pay you more money, which talks, and everybody's going to need money. So eventually you're going to go to 9. You and I have been always big fans of this, going to 9.
Yep.
South Carolina will... What is that? I'm going to do it top of my head now. It's going to be Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, right? According to the Athletic, that's what it could be.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen different. I wouldn't want to say, because if it's not Georgia, I'm gonna raise hell.
Are you going to raise hell?
I am. I mean, seriously, I will. Will I get it? Will I get anything changed?
I was going to say, now with the idea of you threatening to raise hell, do you think that'll get it changed?
No, but I hope I'm not alone around here.
What if you're alone?
Well, then I would ask why I'm alone. I mean,
well, Georgia's the team you want to play.
In my 50-plus years, I think South Carolina has played Georgia like 48 times, man.
I guess.
It's part of what you do.
It feels like to me, and fair or not, it almost feels like the SEC looks at it now as like, yeah, that was fine then, but Georgia's now Georgia. And they were always good, but now they've won national championships and blah, blah, blah. It almost feels like the SEC is looking for other matchups for Georgia besides South Carolina.
Well, that's fine. But
you tell me, because you've been around here longer than I have.
That may be true. And one of the things about where Georgia is that it's quite literally surrounded by rival states, as opposed to us only having one conference rival state that borders us. And look, Georgia wins, 7 out of 10 times that Carolina and Georgia play. I might be underestimating it. I'm not sure. But I still want to play Georgia. I mean, period. I don't know what else. I just hope it speaks for itself. I think South Carolina should play Georgia.
I would love to see, because again, a lot of folks here want to play Georgia in all seriousness. I think for some reason, and again, it's become fun that South Carolina's getting aligned with Kentucky, and I think that's becoming a cool little thing. It's obviously got a long way to go to build up into something, but it's got a little spark to it.
Yeah, but I'd rather get out of that league and go play in another one.
You would like to get up to where
Tennessee would be good.
Well, Tennessee's one of them.
Yeah.
It feels like you're going to get stuck with Kentucky, and you'd love to have Georgia, and then you're going to get either Tennessee or Florida.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be Florida, because I think Florida they're going to want to keep, obviously, with Georgia, and then I think they're going to want to keep them with LSU. Yep. And I think the league really likes Florida, Tennessee on an annual basis.
I
don't think it'll be Florida, but I could see Georgia getting some form of Carolina, certainly Auburn, because that's one of the big ones.
That's a gigantic one.
And then probably Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I've seen even Mississippi State for Georgia. I don't know,
which is an interesting mix.
But I've seen all kinds of things, man.
Mississippi State is another one. Besides Ole Miss, it's a tough match after the Egg Bowl.
Well, I think you may try to tier everybody's, permanence and things like that. But again, I don't know. But I'm also I said this yesterday, in the next 7 seasons, including this coming one, South Carolina has 7 consecutive games scheduled with an ACC opponent. You got Virginia Tech on a neutral.
You got Miami.
Then you got home and homes with Miami, Chapel Hill, and NC State over the next 6 years. Obviously, Clemson every year. And if they do this SEC Big Ten thing, and they go to 9 conference games, I am totally down with that. I don't think a lot of people are, and I get why, because you're afraid to lose. I would rather look at it from a competitive standpoint of what a challenge we have in front of us. Let's go recruit to it, and let's go win these football games.
I feel like you got to get away from. Look, I understand it.
Like Kentucky has admitted.
Oh,
we don't. If we have to go to 9 conference games, we might not play Louisville anymore.
Right.
Louisville, Terry.
Right.
Louisville.
Because again, Stoops wants 6 wins so he can go to a bowl game. That's
can you
all
imagine?
it is.
I can't. Again,
No.
if a head coach here, if Dabo or Shane said, "Hey, if we go to 9 conference games, I don't know if we can play Clemson." Then
right.
You know what? Like, Shane's on the next plane out, man. Like, hey, it was good to have you, but he wouldn't do that.
No, he wouldn't.
And he's already been on our airwaves amongst other places saying, "Bring it. If everybody's doing it, bring it."
I think it's a mindset. You got to change your mindset of, we want to be able to play with the big dogs. And look, Dawn did it in basketball. She traveled everywhere and played everybody that was really good. In the beginning, it didn't go well, right?
If you play in the big time, you should play in the big time. Again, I've told you before, when we've had this conversation, the New England Patriots don't step out of the AFC East in Week 5 and go play the Toronto Argonauts.
Well, they might want to now.
They might now.
The way that's gone. No, I do. I believe that with South Carolina, I would love to see them get Georgia back regular, because, again, it means a lot to this fan base to play Georgia. I really do believe Kentucky, at least in the short term, is kind of wrapped up with South Carolina.
If you told me Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, sign me up today.
Yeah, I mean, and now Tennessee thinks they're above playing certain teams now, certain squads.
But I don't think South Carolina's one of them. I think they'd like that.
Yeah.
But
well, I think it's more interest, right?
Yeah.
Get to 9 games and get this thing cooking. Twitter polls going. You and Elijah will get into it. What else you got?
Mitch Light talking some college baseball from The Athletic.
Very nice. Let's come next on the postgame show. Dave, nice job. We'll do this again tomorrow. See you.